when's the right point to pull the trigger and saying, oh, this is a project, we're building an app, to say like we have to build an entity? When's the right time to do that?
Yep, and I think what you're looking for as a founder or founders is it's you want this entity to do two things for you, and they tend to coalesce at the same point in time. Okay. Number one is we need a common basket where all this IP lives.
Okay.
We don't want to be in a situation
IP
where
meaning?
Intellectual property. Cheers.
Okay. So things you develop, it needs to. Now that we're making something together, it has to live somewhere. Otherwise, there's going to be a fight about who made it.
And let's 2 seconds on intellectual property. Most people have heard of patents. Mm-hmm. Most people have heard of copyrights. Mm-hmm. Most people have heard of trademarks.
Yep.
That's sort of hard IP. That's how some people refer to it. But know-how, ideas, things that you're kicking around, strategies. Okay. That's intellectual property too. And at the beginning stages, when you and I are just sitting at a bar and we're thinking about this company or in your living room or wherever, it's not that big a deal yet. It's not really ripened into something. But once we start to do work, like maybe it's something that you and I and someone else are starting, you don't want the intellectual property to be scattered among the three of us. Because what happens if you leave? But I want to keep working on this with this other person. Well, you're going to walk out with whatever intellectual property you develop. Unless we've created a company.
A bucket
to hold it. That we've each agreed to put the intellectual property in. So now it contains it.
Can you talk a little bit more specifically about, how do you define work? I guess, how do you know work when you see it?
It's, when you get beyond, it's interesting. It is one of those things where to know it when you see it. It tends not to be controversial. There tends not to be, boy, we need to make a decision about this, but it's when it feels real.
Okay.
It's sort of like, we all know people who always talk about, at the barbecue, they're like, I had the idea about MySpace before MySpace had it, and I had the idea for Instagram before Instagram had it, and I had the idea. No, you didn't. Or maybe you did, but you never did anything with it. Those people are always going to talk. They're always going to, they're hype machines. They're never going to do anything. But you do have groups of people that then start to say, hey, let's pursue this. Let's get together and let's maybe say, okay, I need you to work on this piece and I need you to work on this piece and I'm going to work on this piece and let's get together in 2 weeks and let's see what we've got. That's
the point.
That's the point where you want to cross the threshold and you need to think about it. And related to that is the second piece that I mentioned. So not only do we want a bucket that holds all the intellectual property, we need to talk about ownership.
Yes.
Who gets how much of it?
Divvy up the pie, right? Okay.
Right. Because right now, when it's just loose, maybe it's a third. Maybe it's not because one person is doing more of it, so maybe they can make an argument.
Or both of us think each of us should own 60-40.
Exactly.
Like I should have 60.
You don't want that ambiguity at all. So limited liability, it's great, but put that to the side. What you're really focused on is when have we reached a point where we're actually working on something. We want a bucket to put it in, so we know it's all in one place.
And then we also have to divvy it up.
And we have to divvy it up. How much, who gets what. That's the moment.
Interesting.
That's the moment.
I've always heard that you should do it once you're either going to start spending money or receiving money. Like that's the point. But I think that's a moment that yours sounds earlier than that.
It can be a little earlier, and I'm not, it's sort of an existential experience. So, for some people, maybe it is the spending money piece. The sensitivity that I have is I don't want people to form the company too early because it's dynamic. And you can have people coming in and out, and it's okay to let that breathe a little bit, at the very earliest stages. But there does come a point where we need to get aligned around we're doing this. So we want all of our IP in one common bucket. No, we don't want any flight risk around here that someone's going to run off and go do it with somebody else. And we also want clarity around who owns what. We don't want that situation where you say you own 60%, I say I own 60%, and this person says they own 60%, because that math doesn't work very well.
Right.